when belief in fairies was common, the people didn't mention them by name. They referred to them as either the little people or the hidden people. There are many ideas explaining the belief in fairies. Some say they are ghosts. Others believe they are fallen angels, neither bad enough for hell nor pure enough for heaven. There are hundreds of different kinds of fairies. Some are miniature, others grotesque. There are those that can fly, and all can appear and disappear at will. The first fairies on record in England were originally described by the historian Gervase of Tilbury in the 13th century. He said there are guardian fairies like hobgoblins or brownies who are useful at odd jobs and housework. In Aberdeenshire, Scotland, they are described as hideous and have no separate toes or fingers. In the Scottish lowlands, they have a hole instead of a nose. Black Annis, a blue-faced hag, haunts the Dane Hills in Lancashire, while Gentle Annie governs storms in the Scottish lowlands and are perhaps descended from the Celtic goddess Danu, mother of Ireland's cave fairies. And belief in fairies has not died out. In 1962, a Somerset farmer's wife told of how she got lost on her way to the Berkshire Downs and was put back on the right path by the hand of a small man in green. Hello everyone, welcome back to Myth and Magic. I am Lore, and today we are diving into a requested topic, which I'm very excited that somebody wanted to do this one. It is one of my favorite things to dive into. I have books on this. I have both fiction and nonfiction, and it's something that I really truly love, and so thank you for requesting this particular subject. Original fairies, what they were like. We're going to dive into what we think fairies are and what they really are. So, grab your favorite drinky drinks, and instead of grabbing your cozy socks, you'll get those if you want them. It's a little warm for me. But also, grab your crowns, your tiaras, and let's get ready to talk about fairies. I obviously wanted something. I think I should be doing these videos in crowns every time. I have a bunch of crowns that I don't get to ever use, and so maybe this will be a new thing. Grab your crowns. We're talking about magic and myth and all those fun things. So why not? Why not grab a crown? Get cozy, get fairy, and let's dive in. To understand the fae, we have to understand the word itself. The etymology of fairy traces back to the old French fairy, I think that's how you say it, which didn't originally describe a creature, but rather a state of being, enchantment, illusion, or the realm of magic itself. This roots further back to the Latin fata, meaning the fates. In the oldest records, a fairy wasn't an insect-sized friend. It was an environment, a fate, a manifestation of destiny. Historically, these entities don't have a single birth narrative, but rather three distinct cultural origin points. In the Celtic tradition, they are the Tuatha Dé Danann, which we have discussed when talking about the Celtic gods. These were ancient, demoted gods of Ireland who retreated into the Hollow Hills, or Seed, after losing a war against humans. So we have the Tuatha Dé Danann, the gods, fight against humans and retreat into the other world, where they still have influence, they still exist, they're still powerful, but they are no longer ruling the world as we know it. In Christianized folklore, they were viewed as the fallen angels who weren't evil enough for hell, but weren't good enough for heaven. They dropped onto the earth to inhabit the woods and seas. And finally, in many Scottish and Nordic records, the line between fairies and the dead is practically non-existent. They were the spirits of ancestors living inside burial mounds. I had the privilege, when my husband and I went to Ireland and Scotland, to go see one of these mounds, which has gone through a whole lot of change in what its meaning is. We started at the beginning. People came and decided it was something else because they had no idea what it was before. And they were also clan leaders and kings who decided to reinvent what this was for their own purposes. And now it's through archaeology and research, we now have an idea of what it originally was from the beginning and the history throughout. And it was a really cool place to go to. I went to the Newgrange hill mound, and there was just a whole thing, and it was really cool. If you ever get the chance to go, highly recommend. It was beautiful, stunning, and the history was really cool. Now, before diving into the politics of the courts and other fae types, let's clear up a massive historical misconception: the wings. In original folklore, fairies do not have wings. That was a Victorian literary invention designed to make them look delicate for children's books. Original fairies flew via raw magic, by riding the wind, or by enchanting everyday objects like ragwort stems. Their appearance was mutable. They could be human-sized, which was very convenient when mingling with humans and with not wanting to draw attention. And they could also make themselves very small, the size of a child, or what we now think of from like Tinkerbell. They possessed sharp, breathtakingly beautiful aristocratic features, pale skin, and occasionally slightly pointed ears or piercing, unusual eyes. So think Lord of the Rings elves, Dungeons and Dragons elves. Kind of the way we think of elves in general. They have taken kind of the place of fairy, because fairy has now become this idea of something similar but small and with wings. Or think of like Titania in Shakespeare. There was that film version where Michelle Pfeiffer played Titania, and she was this gorgeous version of a fairy. So Fairy Queen Titania, Michelle Pfeiffer. But the fairies that most closely resemble our modern concept, elegant, magical, sometimes small with pointed ears, are deeply rooted in folklore of the British Isles and Ireland. In Ireland, they are the Dina Shi. In Scotland, the Shi. And in Wales, the Tylwyth Teg. Their powers were governed by the laws of illusion, or glamour, time manipulation, and localized curses. They could twist human perception, turn dead leaves into gold, or cause a human to dance inside a mushroom ring for what felt like a single night, only to step out and realize 100 years had passed in the human world. They operated under a strict sense of balance. They demanded absolute politeness, possessed an obsession with manners, and functioned under a law of compensation where any theft or insult from a human was met with immediate, severe retribution. In folklore, fairy is a broad term. It encompasses hundreds of distinct creatures that folklorists generally divide into two categories: the Seelie Court, which is the aristocratic courtly fairies, and the Unseelie Court, darker, solitary, or monstrous fairies. And then you also have kind of a little bit like underneath as a third category, the solitary fairies. Here are the major other classifications found in official records and folklore. You have household and domestic fairies. These fairies tied themselves to human homes and farms. They were industrious but highly temperamental. Some examples are creatures like brownies. They're originated, kind of seen in Scotland and England. They're small, ragged men who live in the nooks of houses. They do farm chores and baking overnight. They refuse payment. Leaving them new clothes will offend them, causing them to leave forever or become mischievous. There are also pixies. Now, pixies kind of have this weird dual kind of existence depending on your current pop culture reference, right? You have Pixie Hollow, where there's Tinkerbell. She's a pixie, a little mischievous, but also all around just like a good creature. You go into D&D, and it gets a little darker. They might be good. They might be bad. They're very neutral, but highly and easily antagonized and very dangerous. In Cornwall and Devon, they're small, red-headed, and fond of playing pranks. They love to mislead travelers, pixie-led. So they wander in circles, and they delight in tangling horse manes into elf locks. Bogarts, or bogies, are northern England creatures. They're domestic fairy gone bad. If a brownie is mistreated, it turns into a bogart. They break dishes, sour milk, pinch sleeping children, and pull blankets off of beds. And then you have the domovoi. If you've read The Bear and Nightingale, you would have already become familiar with the domovoi. It is a Slavic folkloric creature that was utilized along with other Slavic fae in the story as kind of a main fae that was interacted with, and very much represented, as far as what my research has been, very much what they were. Now, these creatures are deified spirits of the ancestral founder of the house. If respected, he protects the home. If angered, he acts like a poltergeist. Our next section are water fairies. And just a little reminder out there, this is not an all-encompassing list. These are the categories and a few of the creatures that are within the category to kind of get you an idea and a feel of what type of fae this is. So water fairies. Water in folklore was almost always synonymous with danger. Water fairies were predatory. You think of Frozen 2. I believe the water horse is a kelpie, I think, but very much that dangerous water spirit entity. So first, Scotland, you have kelpies, a shape-shifting water spirit that often appears as a beautiful horse grazing near a loch. If a human mounts it, their hands become magically stuck to its hide, and the kelpie dives to the bottom of the water to drown and consume them. Not exactly confident in my pronunciation of this next one. It's Germanic or Nordic. It's called a nixus or nixus, or also called a neck. These are river mermen who sit by the water playing enchanting music on violins or harps. They can teach humans unparalleled musical skills, but often demand a sacrifice or lure people to drown. Selkies. These are Orkney and Shetland creatures, marine fairies that live as seals in the ocean but can shed their skins to walk on land as stunningly beautiful humans. Lore often revolves around a human stealing a Selkie skin to force her into marriage. There is actually also a song, I can't remember the title, but it's about a Selkie woman and a human man who fall in love. It was reversed. He was a Selkie man, she was a human woman, and there was some ancestral thing where her grandmother had a Selkie skin buried beneath a tree. I'm struggling to remember the exact story of this song, but because they were able to get that he was dying, and because they were able to get this skin, they were able to live together in the ocean. I think he was dying because he was staying on land for her. Anyway, Selkies have a lot of romanticized stories behind them, some of them truly romantic and some of them predatory. Solitary and nature fairies. These fae lived away from humans, deep in the wilderness, and guarded the natural world. Leprechauns from Ireland, originally described not in green, but in red coats. They were like shoemakers of the fairy world. Solitary and wealthy, they were notoriously cunning and could easily trick humans out of any promises of gold. Knockers, or Tommyknockers, are from Wales and Cornwall. These are small subterranean fairies that lived in mines. They were named for the knocking sounds they made on stone walls. To miners, this was a dual omen. It could indicate a rich vein of ore or warn of an imminent cave-in. Miners always left the crusts of their pastries for them. Then there are the Leshy, which are Slavic. This is a powerful forest spirit and fairy king of the woods. He could change his size from a blade of grass to a towering tree. He protected forest animals and would lead travelers hopelessly astray if they did not respect the woods. Drink break. The malicious and monstrous fae, the Unseelie. This might be something that, if you are interested in fae, fairy lore, that you might be familiar with. These creatures had zero goodwill toward humanity and were treated as active threats. Redcaps. These are one of my absolute favorite. Unseelie, dark, villainous, crazy fae. I based a D&D character that I'm really excited to play again. I had her for one session, and then I think the campaign is people just got really busy. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited to play this character. I'm not playing her evil because it's only based on Redcap. But some of its personality and traits and things like that definitely used for this character, and I'm really excited about it. Redcaps. They live on the Scottish border, and unfortunately I'm unable to figure out a Scottish accent. I can do kind of like a Belfast Irish accent. Cannot figure out Scottish for the life of me. So she doesn't have a Scottish accent. But anyway, I digress. Again, these are murderous, old-looking fairy that lived in ruined castles along the border. They wore iron boots, wielded a pike, and survived by unaliving travelers so they could dye their caps in their wet blood. If the cap dried, he would die. Okay? And according to my research that I did for this character after being introduced to them, they're like nuts, psychotic. These are evil creatures. Yeah, psychopaths. According to my Google search, this next one is pronounced slew, but it's pronounced Sluagh. This is an Ireland and Scottish creature, the host of the unforgiven dead or dark fairies. They flew through the night sky in a mass, hunting for dying souls to snatch away. People would close west-facing windows when someone was dying to keep the slew out. This reminds me a lot of, this will age me, the Fantasia, the OG Fantasia, Disney's musical animated wonder with, is it Carnabog? No, Carnabog is the rabbit from Mighty Python. Chernabog reminds me of Chernabog with his like dun 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 little flow of those ghosties. That's what it makes me think of. Okay, this last one I've done a lot of research on. There's not a lot on them, but I am writing a King Arthur story that happens after he passes away, involving a banshee. These are one of my favorite creatures, and they have such a bad reputation because of Warcraft and was it Supernatural? I don't know if there's a banshee in there, but banshees are not what most people think they are. They don't unalive people. They don't. They scream to warn you of your impending doom, or to warn you to change paths. If you're just like trotting around on this road and you hear a banshee scream, it means one of two things. One, you're gonna unalive. Or switch from the path you're on to the next one, like a fork in a road. Go the other way and you'll be fine. That's what she did. Banshee literally translates to fairy woman. She does not cause death, but acts as a harbinger of it, attached to ancient Irish families. Her terrifying, mournful wailing at night predicts the imminent death of a family member. And in some versions of the lore, she herself was a member of this family. A banshee can be created a couple of ways, but I'm not going to dive too. I love banshees. I think they're really cool. And I think I'll do a video on banshees themselves at another time because they're very fascinating. There's just not a lot on them. So I think it would be more useful to talk about them in tandem with maybe what I'm doing with them literally. Let me know if you would like to know what I'm doing with banshees and if you want to know more information on banshees specifically. Most everybody's favorite, unless you're, well, I don't know, I really like the Unseelie Court. I think I have a little bit of a dark side, I guess. Okay, we're going to talk about the Seelie Court, the Great Divide. We're going to journey into the heart of fairy politics. The Fae are traditionally divided into two great factions, the Seelie Court and what we just discussed, the Unseelie Court. Seelie comes from the Middle English and Scots word meaning blessed, happy, or lucky. The Seelie Court is often referred to as the Summer or Light Court. Their purpose is the preservation of nature's growth, beauty, and the courtly traditions of chivalry. However, do not mistake blessed for good. The personality of the Seelie Fae is aristocratic, detached, and fiercely proud. They can be benevolent to humans, but only if those humans strictly adhere to their rigid etiquette. If you offend a Seelie fairy, their vengeance is handled with a cold, smiling cruelty. They value beauty and talent, which drives their primary interactions with humans. Abduction. They regularly stole human musicians to play at their lavish feasts, midwives to deliver fairy royalty, and beautiful infants, leaving a withered, sickly changeling in the cradle. Residents of the Seelie Court include the trooping Fae, or the Dina Shi, or She. They are high nobility. They ride in grand, glittering processions through the night, wearing green silk and riding white horses with silver bells in their manes. Pixies, found in the rural areas of Cornwall and Devon, like we mentioned, they're mischievous and fond of leading travelers in. They like pixie leading. But they belong to the lighter side of the Fae, delighting in playing pranks rather than outright malice. If they were in the Seelie Court, then it would be malicious. And then brownies, the domestic labor of the Seelie realm. These small, ragged, solitary fairies attach themselves, like we mentioned, to human households to perform overnight chores. Their behavior is governed by an intense pride. Remember, do not offer them anything. They will take great offense. No clothes, no milk. Give milk to a domovoid. They like milk. But payment insults them. They are proud of their service, and that is it. If you do, remember, they will leave forever. Now, going back to the Unseelie Court. These are the opposition to the Seelie, right? Their name is derived from the Scots word for unholy, unblessed, or ominous. This is the winter or dark court. The Unseelie Court represents the harshness of winter, decay, the dark wilderness, and the predatory side of magic. Their personality is openly hostile, aggressive, and predatory towards humanity. Unlike the Seelie, who require an insult to strike, the Unseelie will harm humans simply for their own amusement or survival. They do not seek harmony with mankind. They view humans as prey, toys, or intruders. Residents of the Seelie Court include the Slough, remember, dark mass of spirits, dun, 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 those guys. Redcaps, my D&D character inspiration. Kelpies, the shape-shifting water spirit horse. And then Banshee, though she herself is not malicious, she is an omen of death attached to ancient bloodlines whose mournful wailing predicts an impending demise. So she is stuck in the Unseelie Court. Because remember, it means unholy, unblessed, or ominous. She's an ominous being and probably considered unholy and unblessed because she's stuck. Human interactions. Historically, interactions with the Fae were treated with immense caution. The good. They could bless households with wealth, ensure a good harvest, or teach humans incredible skills in music, blacksmithing, or medicine. The bad. Abductions. Fairies routinely abducted humans. They took midwives to deliver fairy babies, musicians to play at their feasts, and handsome young men or women as spouses. Changelings, one of the most terrifying aspects of the lore. Fairies would steal a healthy human infant and leave a changeling in its place. A sickly, withered fairy child, or an enchanted piece of wood made to look like a baby that would soon pass away. Fairy rings. Circular patterns of mushrooms in grass were considered the boundaries of fairy dance floors. Stepping into one could trap a human in the fairy realm, where time moved differently. A single night of dancing could be 100 years or more passed in the human world. Throughout history, humanity created symbols and rituals to navigate both courts. Because the Fae were highly volatile, everyday life required defensive symbols. Cold iron was the ultimate repellent. Fairies could not touch or cross it, leading people to hang horseshoes over doors or place iron shears near cradles. Salt symbolized purity and was used to ward off fairy blights on livestock. If caught in a fairy glamour, turning your clothes inside out was believed to instantly shatter the illusion, kind of like when you were dealing in the last couple of videos with some Filipino mischievous guardian spirits. Historically, there were no formal cults or temples built to worship fairies, as they were feared rather than venerated as benevolent deities. Instead, worship took the form of propitiation, leaving offerings of milk, butter, and clean water on the doorstep to appease them. In modern spiritual practices such as neo-paganism and the Fae faith, this has evolved into modern worship. Practitioners construct outdoor fairy altars, offer honey, crystals, and traditional milk, and seek to work with the elemental energies of the Seelie and Unseelie courts, emphasizing environmental conservation as a way to honor the spirits of the land. The transition of the Fae from terrifying folklore entities to modern icons is documented across centuries of creative work. To read the foundational accounts, look to The Secret Commonwealth, a book published in 1691 by Robert Kirk, a Scottish minister who claimed to have documented the exact nature of the subterranean Fae, and The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries, 1911, documents by W.Y. Evans Wentz, an essential anthropologic study of oral fairy testimonies. There's also visual art, examining the paintings of Richard Dadd, such as the Fairy Feller's Masterstroke, done in 1855-64, and John Anster Fitzgerald, both of whom captured the older, slightly chaotic, and unsettling nature of the fairy realm before it was completely sanitized by 20th century media. For those who want to see the traditional Seelie and Unseelie Court dynamics, original attributes, and dark behaviors played out in modern media, direct your attention to these specific works. In literature, the Dresden Files, specifically the novel Summer Night by Jim Butcher, offers an incredibly accurate modern fantasy depiction of the political warfare between the Summer, or Seelie, and Winter, or Unseelie courts. In literature, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susan Clarke portrays the gentleman with the thistledown hair, a perfect representation of the traditional amoral, human abducting fairy king of older lore. In television, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, a BBC miniseries adaptation, provides a visual masterclass in the eerie, non-winged, manipulative glamour of traditional fairy magic. And then some things that I could maybe recommend. I picked this up, I believe, at a Barnes & Noble. It's called Irish Fairy and Folklore Tales. It is by the Fall River Press, so not an actual person, but it's quite pretty. And it's where I kind of did some of my banshee research, I believe. A lot of this has stories, so no. What did I must have another book because this looks like it's all stories, which are a lot of fun. But I also have another one somewhere. I'm trying to think, is it in storage? That would be a silly place for it to be. But I have another one where it's about the mythological creatures of Ireland, maybe Scotland, not sure. And another one that I think will probably be pretty close from what I have heard about the story. I've not read it yet, though I've had this for so many years. I have so many books on my TBR, you guys. And this one is, I need to just read it. Cruel Prince, I believe, is supposed to be pretty close to OG fairy lore. They have wings on here, but I don't think he actually has wings. He has a tail or something. Anyway, maybe something to look at. Or if you have read this book and while listening to this video, you're like, oh my gosh, that's totally what it's like in this book. Let me know. Put it in the comments below. And if you have any other fairy-esque stories with kind of OG fairy lore kind of vibes that we've been discussing, put it in the comments. Let me know. I would love to read that. I really would. I love fairies. I love elves. I love it. Okay, moving on. And then I'm just going to kind of throw this one out there. It is not a true, from historical literature to television, most accurate, at all. But there's kind of this vibe going on with the BBC Merlin series, and they do use mythological creatures. It's kind of got this vibe. It's not fairy, but if you're liking this kind of stuff, it might be worth looking at. I think I am a King Arthur enthusiast. I have done a bunch of research for the series that I am writing. It's one of the only adaptations that have gone so far and beyond, way left field from what my research says the story is. But I still love it. I love it. And that's what good writing is. Okay, side tangent. The whole point of this series is to discuss mythological fairy tale things for fun. But it is also so that we can create stories of our own using the knowledge we have. Example of where this is so crucial. So crucial. Okay. The Sword and the Stone. I know, so many people love it. And there are things that I really do love about it. I love Madame Nim. She's fantastic. I love her. She's not in the, like, there are, like, evil witch sorceresses kind of things going on in the King Arthur story. Not like that. My real issue comes with Sir Kay and Sir Ector, who were Arthur's adopted family. I don't like it when a recreation messes with family dynamics that go from like so supportive, so there for you, maybe had a mistake here and there, but they're human, into abusive family relationship. I don't like that, okay? We don't need to make everything bad. There were enough antagonists in The Sword and the Stone to not also have to come from his family, who in written tradition were very loving people towards Arthur. Okay? Merlin doesn't, there's a lot that's different, but they did it so well. There's a right way to change a story. Sword and Stone did one thing wrong, messed up the whole movie for me. Merlin? Oh, so good. And it has this kind of vibe. If you like this vibe, there you go. What do you do? You go watch it. It's great. This is why I'm doing this off of my little soapbox. And if you like Sword in the Stone, there's nothing wrong with that. I only don't like it because of two characters who were really super noble and amazing being turned into thugs and bullies. The traditional Fae were never safe, never simple, and never truly human. They were the shadows in the woods and the sudden stroke of luck on a lonely path, reminding us that the world is far older and far stranger than we often care to remember. That is what I have for this video on the Fae. I am planning to try and get some research in and really dig in Dina Shi, the trooping Fae, who are more like what we imagine fairies to be. I'm going to see if I can find some like really good stuff and make a whole episode off of it. That is the plan. Let me know if there are other Fae you would like me to do a deep dive in. I like to kind of do these in 3s or 6s. So let me know if you have something that you're like, ooh, okay, tell me about this one. Or this one. Or, if we just stuck in the fairy realm, I wouldn't be mad about that. That's just me though. If you have any other suggestions or requests, let me know in the comments. I am here for you. I am excited to do research on the things that you're interested in, because then it becomes interesting to me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you can be kind to those around you, be the light in this world that we so desperately need, and maybe go do some research. If you're a writer, if you're a storyteller, go watch Sword and Stone, and then go watch Merlin, the BBC the BBC series. It's a bit long, but it does a really good job of telling a story based on another story while not sticking to the very specific plot points, characteristics of certain characters, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I hope you have fun. If you're a storyteller, let me know. Tell me in the comments. And or like someone, I think somebody was doing a paper on that, which is super cool. Let me know. Are you here for fun? Are you writing a dissertation? Are you writing a story? Tell me. I want to know. I want to know what you guys are doing. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye.